tonight we are digging deeper with Jim Horton with the Zachary Horton Foundation. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Kaylee.
How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yes, thank you for being here. So we want to talk about what the foundation is and kind of how it got started and what it means to you. You want to debrief on that?
Sure. Well, the Zachary Horton Foundation was created as a legacy for my son, Zach. Zach passed away January 7th of 2020. He was 19 years old, and he had been struggling with opioid addiction, best we can tell, for about a year. And shortly after his passing, his mother and I decided that we really wanted to do something to bring some meaning to his passing. And so we developed the foundation. And the mission of our foundation is to end the stigma of addiction.
Right. And what can people do to end that stigma and to break that stigma and kind of get away from the negative connotation of what addiction, the word addiction, has?
Sure. And one of the things that we found, one of the big struggles that his mother and I had was about the denial that we felt. Right, and then we tied that directly to the stigma that we felt, not being able to talk about it to any of our friends, and keeping it a secret. Really, not even be able, Kaylee, we couldn't even talk about it to each other because it's so powerful, the stigma that's associated with addiction. And you and I were speaking a little bit earlier, and I said, imagine if the very worst thing that's either ever happened to you or that you've done in your life is the one thing that you are now defined about for the rest of your life, right? So if you were a diabetic and all of a sudden, and that was the worst thing that had happened to you and you'd been struggling with having to take insulin shots forever, and all of a sudden, from now on, you were always introduced as the diabetic. You're not Kaylee the journalist anymore. You're Kaylee the diabetic, right? 30 years from now, you're still Kaylee the diabetic.
It follows you everywhere.
It follows you forever.
Right.
And that's what addiction does, because of the way we view it as punitive. We view it as so negative, and we still believe that the person affected by the disease, and the correct term for it is substance use disorder, and we still believe that the people that are affected by this disease have control of it if they just stopped. And that's like me telling you, if you just stopped having cancer, then you wouldn't have these problems anymore.
Right. It's not. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
It's so much deeper. It's so much more complex, and it has to do with a lot of mental health most of the time too, right?
There is such a large, they call it a co-occurring disease, and people that struggle with addiction almost always have some other co-occurring mental health issue. For my son, it was depression, and that's what he had. Early growing up, we thought also there might have been some OCD or some Tourette's that were also involved when he was real young. So all of these things combined together, and when someone's younger, those are the things that often drive them. You say, well, why would Zach? We grew up in what we'll call the nice part of town, right? In a nice house with a swimming pool, going to Clovis schools, and we had everything going. Why would Zach even want to try drugs for the first time? What was so horrible about his life? But the thing is, you can't. When someone's struggling with depression, that depression is real to them, right? And so they're looking for something, and it's not just that, but any kind of mental illness is one of those stepping stones that can definitely lead to and contribute to addictive behaviors.
Right. And just because someone does live in a nicer house or has a good family, foundation around them, it doesn't mean that they don't still struggle. And I think that's another important aspect for people to realize too, that it's just so much deeper than that. And just because they're in a nice setting doesn't mean that the issues aren't real. So how can people break out of that negative connotation of what addiction is? What are some of the things that your foundation preaches to help spread the word to get rid of that negative connotation.
Sure, and that's such a great question, and I can say this is where our foundation has, I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to for our foundation to grow, and as we need to pivot in what we're thinking and what we're sharing, and that's all the education, all the books that I read, everything that I can get my hands on to really break that down. And I would say the most important thing that I'm seeing now in breaking the stigma of addiction is really changing the conversation around drug use, and that means talking about it with your children, talking about it with your friends, not keeping it hidden away in the closet. It's something that just needs to be discussed. And when someone truly falls into addiction, and we now see substance use disorder addiction, it's on a continuum. Right? So it might be, hey, someone has a couple glasses of wine every night at dinner, they're not addicted to that yet, but they're on the continuum in that if they don't have a couple glasses of wine, they're not able to relax, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's at the very, low end of what issues are. But that can grow and grow and grow, right? And on this continuum until you get to a place where unless someone now has to take 2 or 3 painkillers a day, it doesn't even touch the pain that they're feeling, right? And so to be able to have those discussions in a family and talk about them around your children, and to talk about how substance use disorder is a disease like any other disease, and if your children ever find themselves in that place where they're feeling like they can't control anything anymore, or if they don't have whatever that is to make them feel normal or to feel happy, that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to ask for help. That would go a huge way in, because what we don't want to see is what happened with my son, is that we didn't identify what the problem was until I draw the correlation until it was like already stage 4 cancer. Right? We didn't. Too late. It was too late. We were very good about talking to him about using sunscreen so he didn't get a sunburn that could develop into skin cancer. Right? We talked about that a lot during the summertime. But we didn't always talk about what his depression meant, what changing a new school could mean, what the other elements in our families, the other history of addiction that my wife and I both had in our families, what that could also mean as just as another consequence, right? That could help drive him to his issues.
Yeah, and that conversation is important, because just because you're seeing this person every day doesn't mean that they're not struggling and you don't know about it. And I think with the pandemic, it has helped people have that open conversation about mental health more. So that's good. And it's, your foundation is amazing for that, to get that conversation going and, just let the people know and be knowledgeable about these are real issues, and it hits closer to home than most people realize for most people, I feel like. So it's important, and it's important what you guys are doing, and that's great. So
thank you. And if I can say real quickly, one of the things that our foundation is doing is we're helping to support a family support group. And there'll be more on that coming here very shortly in the next month. And you can find a whole lot of resources on our website at the ZacharyHortonFoundation.org. And there's going to be family support groups. There's also 12-step programs that we talk about, and there's ways to contact those. And I would say if you sense any challenge or any issue with yourself or with anyone in your family, please reach out to us, reach out to one of the resources that you see on our website, and get in touch. The only thing that can happen if you don't get in touch, whatever the issue is, it's just going to grow. It's just going to get worse. And so at least understand it, at least educate yourself, and let's become more aware.
Yes, definitely. And there are some other local resources available, right? Some sober living homes, local rehabs. Where can people find these places?
Yeah. So again, on our website, if you click on the resources, we have sober living homes. Okay. We have a private rehabilitation centers. We have all the community programs that are available, and there are just so many that are available for people. There are 12-step programs like AA and NA or Nar-Anon or Al-Anon. So that's for the families of the person struggling. NAMI is a great organization that deals with mental health issues. And again, we have access to all of those on our website. And if you're unsure about it, again, just reach out. You can shoot me an email through the website or give me a call.
There you go. Okay. And to close it up, what could Fresno as a community do to help those struggling and help those with addiction?
Wow. Right now there is a lot of attention due to the current fentanyl crisis. And so Fresno is doing a great job of bringing an awareness to that. You'll see there's billboards around town now. I hear, which never happened before, just like this, but there's discussions on the news, that are happening. And let's be honest, Fresno has had there's been deep drug issues in Fresno for a long time, but the fentanyl crisis has really brought it to the forefront, right?
Yeah.
So the things that we can continue to do is educate ourselves every time that there's something that's available, that's online or on the news. There is Narcan available, and in the fentanyl crisis, that can literally save a life from someone who's had an opioid overdose, right? So just like and there's other places too, other than our foundation, but if you give us a call, we are happy to do training for Narcan and give out Narcan for free. I know Community Hospital just had a huge event. August 31st was a National Overdose Awareness Day. And so there's a lot of things like that are happening, and what Fresno can continue to do is to continue to talk about this, to make it easier for us to have these discussions in the schools, because drug addiction and the pain that it brings, it affects everybody. It doesn't affect just the north side of town where we grew up. It doesn't affect just the west side of town. It doesn't affect people that are living in poverty, or it affects people that are at the upper socioeconomic level as well, right? So we really need to talk about that. We need to continue to have all of these programs and products available, and to eliminate the stigma and the negativity that is talked about. We can't punish our way out of this epidemic. We really need to educate and to just show such support and love that people, when they're looking for help, they're able to find it.
Right. And that's what your foundation is all about, and that's amazing. So thank you again for being here and sharing your story and just helping the community in the world. And that's great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kaylie Quaschnick, reporting with MyTV 53 for the Austin Reed Network, and we're here with Zachary Horton Foundation. So thank you for watching.